I never thought I'd end up battling the HOA over a stop sign, but that's exactly what happened. It began on an otherwise forgettable Tuesday evening at the community center, where I'd shown up just to advocate for longer pool hours. I didn't care about the politics or the cliques, just wanted to swim a few laps after work. But then Veronica Chambers, the self-appointed queen of the subdivision and reigning HOA president for 7 years, stepped up to the podium in her beige power suit and pastel clipboard, lips pursed like she'd swallowed a lemon. She flipped to the next agenda item with a rehearsed smile. "The stop sign at Maple and Oakwood," she said, "has become something of an eyesore. The red is simply too aggressive for our community's color palette. After a board discussion, we voted to replace it with a more tasteful yield sign in beige. Installation is scheduled for Tuesday." My head snapped up. Maple and Oakwood was the four-way stop right outside my house. A place where kids crossed the street to get to the park. A place where cars used to speed through before that sign was put in. I raised my hand, but Veronica was already moving on to the next topic. "Excuse me," I said, standing up. "That's a safety issue. Not an aesthetic one. You can't just remove a traffic sign because it doesn't match your landscaping." She gave me a look like I'd just tracked mud into her country club foyer. "The board has voted. We're confident this will enhance the neighborhood's visual consistency. Perhaps if you attended more meetings, you'd understand our vision." I bit down my response. This wasn't about vision. This was about control. She wasn't asking for input. She was announcing a decision already made behind closed doors. A few neighbors looked uncomfortable, but no one else spoke up. "I don't think you have the authority to remove a stop sign," I said. "That's a city matter. It's not even HOA property." Her eyes narrowed, and she tilted her head in that condescending way that screamed, "You poor, uninformed man. Are you a city planner? A traffic engineer? No? Then I suggest you leave these decisions to those of us who understand the big picture." She paused. "And while we're discussing compliance, your house has blue trim. That shade is not on the approved color list. You'll want to handle that before our next inspection." The threat was thinly veiled but clear. I was on her radar now. I didn't say another word. Just sat down, waited out the rest of the meeting, and left. On the walk home, I pulled out my phone and fired off an email to the city's traffic department. I explained the situation, mentioned the scheduled removal, and attached a photo of the intersection. Then I waited. Surely the city would step in. Surely this would get sorted out. It didn't. Days passed. No update. No reply. And then, on a Friday morning while working from home, I heard it, the unmistakable sound of metal scraping against concrete. I looked out my front window and froze. Veronica was outside, wearing spotless gardening gloves, smiling, directing two men as they unbolted the stop sign from the ground. At first, I thought maybe I was imagining it. Maybe they were repairing it. But then I saw the beige post lying in the grass, and the yield sign leaning against her SUV. I grabbed my phone and headed out the door. "What are you doing?" I called. "You can't remove that." Veronica turned slowly, wearing the look of someone deeply burdened by the incompetence of others. "We're expediting the improvement project. The new yield sign will be up by tomorrow." "This is illegal," I said, already dialing 911. "This isn't your jurisdiction." She laughed, waving her hand. "Oh, come now. Don't be dramatic. I'm the HOA president. This is HOA-managed property." "No, it's not," I snapped. "It's a city street. And that's a city-installed traffic sign." She rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might pop out of her skull. "The city will understand. It's for the betterment of the neighborhood. You'd be amazed how much visual cohesion affects property values." I could barely hear the 911 operator over the chaos of indignation boiling inside me. I explained the situation, gave the address, and made it clear this was tampering with public safety infrastructure. By the time I hung up, the stop sign was in the back of a pickup truck. I told her the police were on their way. Told her I'd already contacted the city. She responded with the same smug smile she used at the meeting. So intimidating, she mocked. I'm sure they'll be grateful someone's finally improving this place. I opened my mouth to argue, but the sound of tires crunching gravel beat me to it. A cruiser pulled up. And for the first time, Veronica's smile slipped. Just a little. The officer stepped out, a weathered man with a no-nonsense posture, and a look that said he'd seen every flavor of suburban nonsense. Veronica moved fast, her tone suddenly sugar-coated. Officer, thank goodness. This resident has been harassing me while I oversee an approved improvement project. I'm the HOA president, and we've voted to replace that unsightly stop sign. He didn't blink. Ma'am, did you remove a city traffic sign? She gave a nervous laugh. Yes, but only temporarily. We're installing a more tasteful yield sign tomorrow. It's all part of a community enhancement initiative. That sign is city property, he said flatly. Removing it without authorization is tampering with traffic control equipment. That's a criminal offense. Her face tightened. I think you're mistaken. I've been president of this HOA for 7 years. We manage this intersection. You manage landscaping, noise complaints, fence heights. You don't manage traffic signs, he replied. This is public infrastructure. I was just helping our contractors get a head start, she said, eyes darting toward the truck. There's no harm. We're improving the look of the street. You're endangering the public, he said. This intersection had a stop sign for a reason. It's a safety measure, not a decoration. At that moment, a second patrol car pulled up, followed by a city utility truck. A man in a high-vis vest stepped out, clipboard in hand. Traffic department, he said. We got your message. I nodded. Thanks for coming. They already took the sign down. It's in the back of that truck. The official turned to Veronica. Ma'am, this intersection was upgraded to a 4-way stop 2 years ago after multiple near misses involving children. The sign was reviewed and approved through a public safety ordinance. What you've done here is not just unauthorized, it's reckless. I was trying to raise property values, she said, arms crossed, voice wobbling between indignation and panic. The red clashed with our entrance markers. The officer pulled out his notepad. You're being cited for tampering with official traffic equipment. You'll need to appear in court. It's a misdemeanor offense. You can't be serious, she gasped. For a stop sign? For public endangerment, the officer replied. And obstructing municipal authority. Veronica turned to me, eyes wide with disbelief. This is your doing. You escalated this. I didn't flinch. You removed a safety sign. I reported it. That's not escalation. That's responsibility. The traffic official signaled to his crew to reinstall the stop sign. They moved quickly, used to working under pressure. The crowd had begun to grow, neighbors stepping out of their homes, curious, phones in hand. Whispers floated around like leaves in the breeze. Veronica tried to save face, but every argument she made dug the hole deeper. Do you even know how much color palette affects home sales? She asked the officer. He stared at her. Do you know how much liability a missing stop sign creates after a car crash? Her lips moved, but no sound came. Her carefully curated image of control and elegance cracked right there on the sidewalk. The officer handed her the citation. Court dates listed. Don't miss it, the city official added. You'll also be billed for the reinstallation costs. And we're opening a formal review of your HOA board's actions. A man in the crowd snorted. About time. Veronica's phone rang. She glanced down. Barbara, the HOA treasurer. She silenced it, hand trembling slightly. The workers bolted the sign back into place with surgical efficiency. The red metal gleamed in the afternoon sun, restored like a symbol of common sense taking back control. She turned to me again, face flushed with a mixture of rage and humiliation. This won't end here. You've embarrassed me in front of the entire neighborhood. You did that to yourself, I said quietly. You're not a ruler. You're a board member. I've given everything to this community. Then maybe you should have protected it instead of removing the one thing keeping it safe. Her expression hardened. No more words. No more posturing. Just pure resentment. She got in her SUV, slammed the door, and drove off, beige yield sign still sitting in her trunk. The officer gave me a nod. Thanks for doing the right thing. I shrugged. Someone had to. He looked toward the workers and shook his head. All this for a stop sign. The traffic official chuckled. It's never just about the sign. 3 weeks passed. I thought that would be the end of it, but then I got the email. An emergency HOA meeting had been scheduled. No details, just the time and location. Curiosity 1. When I arrived, the room was packed. This wasn't the usual sleepy dozen. Neighbors who never showed up were now lined against the walls. At the front, Barbara, the HOA treasurer, stood where Veronica usually did. That alone said everything. Barbara looked nervous but composed. She cleared her throat and began. As many of you know, our HOA president Veronica Chambers appeared in municipal court this week regarding the unauthorized removal of city traffic signage. The room buzzed with murmurs. She has been fined $5,000 and sentenced to 200 hours of community service, specifically with the city's traffic safety education program. Additionally, she's been ordered to cover the full cost of reinstallation and inspection of the intersection she tampered with. A ripple of quiet shock moved through the crowd. Some nodded. Some looked amused. A few whispered to each other. Barbara continued, her voice gaining momentum. More concerning is that due to the legal exposure caused by this incident, the city has launched a full audit of our HOA's actions for the past year. This includes financial records, communications, and enforcement procedures. Now the buzz turned to wide-eyed stares. That wasn't just embarrassing. That was real liability. In light of the potential damage to the association's credibility and legal standing, the board convened privately and has voted unanimously to remove Veronica Chambers from her position as HOA president, effective immediately. Just then, the door opened. Veronica stepped in, perfectly timed to witness the moment. She paused, taking in the packed room, the silence, and the eyes on her. The usual smug confidence was gone. Her cheeks flushed. Her eyes scanned the room like she was searching for someone, anyone, to side with her. But no one met her gaze. Barbara turned toward her calmly. Ah, Veronica. We were just addressing the board's decision. Veronica blinked. You can't be serious. Barbara didn't waver. The city has us under a microscope. Your actions exposed every resident here to potential liability. We cannot afford that risk. Veronica stepped forward, voice rising. I have given 7 years to this neighborhood. 7. I've worked harder than any of you. And in 7 minutes you put it all at risk, Barbara said. You crossed a legal boundary. You endangered residents. And you did it without transparency. I was beautifying the neighborhood, she snapped. No, you were abusing authority, a voice said from the crowd. Veronica's head whipped around. She couldn't tell who said it. This is a witch hunt, she said. You're punishing me for one decision. It wasn't one, Barbara replied. It was the latest in a pattern. The fines. The threats. The citations. This time you broke the law. That isn't just board business. That's criminal court. Veronica finally locked eyes with me. Her expression turned to venom. This is your fault. You started all this. I reported something illegal, I said. You made the choice to ignore the law. You thought the rules didn't apply to you. She shook her head. I tried to make this place better. You tried to control it, I said. But this isn't yours to control. She stood frozen. No one came to her defense. No allies. No soft glances. Just a quiet room watching a woman realize the power she clung to no longer existed. Barbara resumed. Veronica, you are no longer authorized to speak or act on behalf of this board. We'll notify the city and legal counsel of the transition. Veronica didn't argue. She just stood there a moment longer, chest rising and falling as if holding back every word she wanted to say. Then she turned and walked out. No final speech. No defense. Just the slam of the door behind her. Barbara let the silence linger a second. Moving forward, we will establish a transparency policy and a direct communication line with the city for all infrastructure discussions. We won't be making unilateral decisions about safety again. Applause broke out, not loud or theatrical, but the kind that meant something. A corner had turned. I didn't clap. I just listened. It felt like the neighborhood exhaled for the first time in years. Later, as people filtered out, a neighbor I'd barely spoken to before clapped me on the shoulder. Took guts. Good work. I nodded. Just did what anyone should have. Yeah, he said. But most don't. I left the meeting with no interest in a title or attention. I just wanted the sign to stay up. I wanted my streets safe. And maybe, finally, I wanted a swim in the pool after dark without a citation about towel color. Some tyrants fall in fire. Some fall in silence. And some get fined $5,000 and spend their weekends handing out pamphlets on pedestrian safety. It didn't take long for the aftermath to settle in. With Veronica gone, the neighborhood slipped into a strange calm. No surprise inspections. No passive-aggressive emails about lawn height. No warnings about mailbox paint. It was almost eerie, the way quiet returned once the shouting stopped. The HOA board restructured. Barbara took over temporarily, and for the first time, meetings started ending early. People began showing up not out of fear, but curiosity. Suggestions were welcomed. Questions were answered. No one was shut down for asking why something mattered. A few days after the emergency meeting, I got a thank you letter from the city's traffic department. They appreciated the tip-off. Said it probably prevented a serious accident. The supervisor who'd been there that day even left his card with a note scribbled on the back. Let us know if the beige yield sign makes a comeback. I smiled at that one. Then came the whispers. Stories spread of Veronica being seen at elementary schools, handing out traffic safety flyers with a forced smile and a high-visibility vest. One neighbor claimed she saw her picking up litter in front of the courthouse, earbuds in, hoodie pulled low. She never made eye contact with anyone. No more power. No more podium. Just community service and court dates. The audit continued. The city found more issues than they expected. Turns out, Veronica had approved multiple changes to public-facing areas without permits, signage, lighting, even certain landscaping that technically encroached on city right-of-way. It all had to be redone. The HOA took a financial hit, and residents were furious once they saw where their dues had gone. Barbara held a town hall to lay it all out. No sugarcoating. No spin. Just a spreadsheet and a microphone. People respected her for it. She didn't play the queen. She just led. And the shift was instant. Homeowners who never said a word before began volunteering. Fixing up the park. Organizing trash pickup days. A neighborhood that used to feel micromanaged started feeling like a place people actually chose to live in. As for me, I stayed out of it. I didn't join the board. I didn't run for anything. I kept to my routines, mornings on the porch, evenings walking the dog. But something had shifted. Neighbors waved more. Conversations lasted longer. I got invited to a block barbecue, and for the first time in years, I didn't make up an excuse not to go. I ran into Veronica once, weeks after everything had settled. She was walking out of the community center, holding a folder and avoiding eye contact. I didn't say anything. Neither did she. But I could feel the weight of her stare as I passed. Not anger anymore, just defeat. She had built her identity on control, and once it was stripped away, there wasn't much left. Some folks said she'd try to run again in the next election cycle. Others laughed at the idea. Nobody knew for sure. But the mood had changed. People had seen what unchecked control looked like. They weren't going back. At the next HOA meeting, Barbara announced that the city had cleared the association to continue operations, provided quarterly reports and resident votes on major changes. No more backroom decisions. No more autocrats. They even passed a rule: any alteration to public infrastructure required a public vote and documented approval from municipal authorities. Someone suggested naming it the Veronica Rule. The room laughed. Even Barbara cracked a smile. It wasn't a dramatic revolution. No fireworks. No banners. Just paperwork, process, and people finally paying attention. The kind of quiet, ordinary justice that doesn't go viral but actually matters. That stop sign still stands. Brighter than anything else on the block. Cars pause. Kids cross. The world doesn't spin off its axis. Life goes on. But every time I pass it, I remember what almost happened. How close a neighborhood came to being reshaped by one person's vanity. And how easily it could have been ignored. The difference wasn't outrage. It wasn't noise. It was one email. One call. One refusal to be steamrolled by someone who mistook authority for law. And that's the thing about suburban tyrants. They don't fall because someone yells louder. They fall because someone bothers to read the rules. I don't feel like a hero. I wasn't trying to make a statement. I just didn't want someone's kid hit by a car because beige matched better than red. But that's the irony. Most power isn't taken with violence. It's given away in silence. And sometimes, all it takes to stop it is refusing to stay quiet. So when people ask what happened to Veronica Chambers, the infamous HOA president who tried to redesign public safety like it was her backyard patio, I just tell them the truth. She got stopped.